Chapter 5. As she made dinner for herself and her boyfriend, Natalie found herself thinking about her non-existent career once again. Her temporary part-time job at the call center had become something that she couldn't talk about to anyone, not even herself. Especially not herself. Money-wise, she was just getting by, but it didn't come close to what the initiators of the design program had promised her. She also had to pay back the small loan she had taken out for the design program. Inflation had made everything more expensive anyway. When she was young, she had always teased her aunt for doing that. When she had nothing to do, and also because it was cheaper, she would stay at home and immerse herself in Proust and the other classics. She didn't even accompany her boyfriend to any of the art events he was constantly being invited to. In a way, she was like Marcel. He also stayed home all the time, writing about dinner parties happening outside of his house. At least reading didn't cost anything, and she usually bought the books second-hand or borrowed them from the library. Was this really becoming an adult, she thought? If the heart started beating faster at the sight of printed matter than at the sight of people? Or was that the beginning of depression? Zane came in the door, a little sweaty and with paint-splattered hands. He looked heated, like someone who was fulfilled by his work. Meanwhile, Natalie always came back from the call center with cold feet.
Oh, hello.
He collapsed in his chair.
What's for dinner?
Caesar salad.
Oh, again.
Why? Don't you like it?
Well, I don't know. I like pizza.
Yeah, me too.
Tonight?
I've already started making the salad.
Oh.
Zane stole a slice of bread from the basket on the table and dug out his phone from his pocket.
I'll just order it directly. We can share one as an extra.
He seemed to be in a good mood, so Natalie didn't say anything. She didn't want to spoil it. She wondered what she was doing wrong. He was always sketching or working on something, while she was only creative with leftovers and recipes on the internet to save money.
So...
Natalie had to raise her voice a little over the sound of the frying pan.
How was the event yesterday?
The what?
The art event.
Oh, that. Yeah.
Zane talked with his mouth full.
It was okay. Some people were interested. Some people weren't.
It drove Natalie crazy when he was so vague. Not only had he somehow stumbled into these art circles, he didn't really seem to care about them.
Well, who do you think will be interested?
I don't know.
He shrugged.
Someone.
So, you have to...
Natalie rubbed the frying pan with the dishcloth.
make something that will interest collectors.
What's that?
For the collectors, you have to make something for them. A painting or something.
A painting?
He sounded like he didn't know what art was.
Well, yeah.
Natalie tossed the breadcrumbs into the trash can.
It's a collector's hoopie. We've got to eat.
Although he had been invited to all these art events, nothing much had come of them so far.
Yeah.
Zane was tapping on his phone.
I know that.
Natalie sighed.
Do you expect me to support you all the time? While you're hanging out with your art friends? Staying out all night? I bought all the ingredients for the salad.
Shortly after she said it, it already seemed ridiculous to her. Zane was looking at her with his mouth open.
Why are you getting so angry?
Natalie didn't react and put a plate of salad in front of him.
Staying out at night. That's what I do. I'm doing graffiti.
He looked at her.
I have a feeling that it's been bubbling up inside you, all along. Like you want to convince me that everything I do is wrong.
No.
Natalie shook her head.
I didn't mean to say that at all. I just wanted to know how the art event went.
Suddenly, she felt very tired. Wordlessly, she poked at her salad. Her boyfriend had become a part of the rest of the world, a frustratingly unknown quantity. There was an empty pizza box on the counter when Natalie returned to the kitchen later. Zane was in the shower. In a moment, he would go out, hanging out with who knows who, running away from some cops, freezing his butt off. In the past, she had always enjoyed watching him fall asleep. It seemed like a dream to her now. She sat down at the kitchen table and opened his sketchbook, which was lying there. He had drawn a lot of distorted faces in dark colours, like the shadows on the wall. His sketches were the blueprints for his graffiti art. He sprayed them with the police's half-approval, but what he was doing was still illegal. Meanwhile, the collectors were watching him greedily from a safe distance, as if they were watching a true crime documentary, glass of red wine in hand, already closing deals behind his back. When Natalie showed up the next Wednesday, Henry was already sitting at their usual table, his copy of Proust in front of him.
"Today I will read along,"
he said, looking at the young woman tensely. Natalie smiled.
Do you think I'm reading something wrong? Or making something up?
"No, it's just I want to be able to follow everything better."
The girl studied his face.
Are you okay? You seem a bit tense.
"Oh, don't worry. It's nothing."
Henry waved it off. He couldn't tell her that he needed to prove to himself he wasn't going mad. Not yet, at least. Maybe later he could tell her, and they could both have a good laugh about it. Henry, the guy who thought she was able to make sentences disappear. Slowly, the young woman began to read. It was just like the times before. The words were wrapped in her Scottish accent, and Henry could feel them on his tongue. He felt dizzy again and had to concentrate so that the words in the book in front of him did not blur before his eyes. Henry had to close his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, something had shifted on the page in front of him. The paragraph the young woman had just read was gone. She had read it away. Henry nearly shouted, "Stop!" He bit his tongue at the last moment. Natalie looked up and looked at him askance. Henry shook his head. He couldn't talk. The girl read on. Henry tried to follow the story and look down at the book, but the words kept disappearing right from under his nose. He broke out in a sweat. He had to hold on to the armrests with both hands. He didn't even notice that the girl had stopped reading and was looking at him with concern.
What is it? Are you feeling ill? Shall we make a break?
"Sorry, I've had too much coffee today."
Part of him wanted to grab her by the collar, as if to force her to return the words to this story. Was it her terrible accent? Did it make the words writhe and then die? Did she slaughter them?
"Maybe it's better if we stop for today,"
Henry said automatically.
Actually, I have a bit of catching up to do before the next book club meeting.
Natalie held the book casually in her hand, as if she didn't know how she had just mutilated the text. Or did she?
"You can do that at home,"
Henry said, more harshly than intended. The girl looked at him a little puzzled.
"I'm sorry, It's just..."
What was he supposed to say? You are never allowed to read aloud again?
Oh, no worries. I understand.
The young woman said, but she looked at him as if she didn't. She stood up.
See you next week.
Even some time after the young woman had left, Henry was still sitting on the chair in the cafe, as if glued to it, staring at his copy of Proust. The passages the girl had read would now be lost to literature forever, as if they had never existed. He looked around suspiciously, as if a crime had just happened here and he was a silent accomplice. But the few people present continued to drink their coffee, read the newspaper and scroll on their smartphones, undisturbed as usual. How long before people first noticed something? What about those who were reading the novel now, perhaps even the same passage? Did the words vanish into thin air before their eyes? He had to prevent something like this from happening again. But how could he do that? Would she believe him? All the questions were drowning each other out in his head. What was she, even? Henry remembered that in ancient Greek mythology there were goddesses who instilled inspiration in writers, the Muses. Was she the opposite? The anti-muse?
Another coffee?
Henry was startled when the waiter suddenly appeared next to him.
No, thank you.
He stood up, quickly placed a few coins on the table, and then left the cafe. Over the next few days, Henry Googled Proust several times a day. He was not sure what he was expecting to find. An outcry? After all, the young woman had already read away at least half a chapter. But the world kept on turning as usual. The news was all about rising inflation, the change of ministers in England, the soccer results. Somehow, this made Henry angry. Would people only notice if the whole book was gone? And what was he supposed to do with his knowledge of the lost passages? Tell a Proust specialist about it? Impossible. He would only be laughed at. Besides, he wasn't even exactly sure he could remember what the passages were about. It seemed to slip away from him more with each passing hour, and he felt a certain lightness, or rudiments of it, that he had not felt for a long time. The next day, Henry went out for dinner again with his ex-wife at the usual restaurant. With its white walls, exposed brick and tin ceiling, the restaurant had a country house appearance. The tables were small. The chairs were a less than comfortable type of wooden chair that was at times too high and at other times too low. Henry's daughter Mary was also there today, at least physically. Mentally, she was absorbed in the feed on her phone. His ex-wife was wearing something purple that vaguely reminded him of a mourning dress. Her pointed, brightly polished fingernails tapped the stem of the wineglass as if she wanted to measure the time.
Are you still trying to sue this publisher?
Henry's daughter didn't even look up. She probably thought that he sued people on a daily basis.
Well, it's still an option, but not really my first priority right now.
In fact, he hadn't thought about it for a while. The whole thing with Natalie had pushed it to the back of his mind. Marjorie tilted her head a bit and looked at him with a half-smile that did not reach her eyes.
Perhaps it's better that way. Henry, this book of yours. It's been a while now. I don't think it resonates with people if it hasn't made bigger waves by now. You should let go of it.
Henry looked out of the windows at the people passing by.
That's understandable. It's a book about suffering, after all.
He wasn't sure if his ex-wife had read the book at all. Maybe he could tell her anything. Marjorie took a sip from her white wine.
According to the law of reciprocity, if you put something negative out into the world, something negative will come back to you. So maybe you should try to write something more uplifting. That's what people want to read. Maybe you should try writing for children or younger people.
Henry's daughter uttered something that sounded like a scoff while continuing to be glued to her screen. Henry didn't say anything. What did Marjorie know about writing, let alone suffering? The food came, arranged in abstract patterns, as if the chef had tried to explain the world on a plate. As Henry took the first bite, something occurred to him.
Marjorie, you've been dealing with esoteric things for a while, right?
His ex-wife, who had already brought her fork halfway to her mouth, stopped in mid-motion.
Yes, I suppose so.
Has anything strange ever happened to you all these years? Something you absolutely couldn't explain?
She looked at him and rolled her eyes.
Why are you suddenly interested in this? Are you writing a ghost story or something?
No, I don't know. Something might have happened to me and
To his astonishment, Marjorie put a hand over her mouth and began to giggle.
What?
Oh, Henry, you should see that look on your face and how the noodle just fell off your fork.
Mary now also looked up and grinned. Henry felt anger rising inside him. All these years he had put up with Marjorie's esoteric obsession, and now she was laughing at him. She cleared her throat.
Well, what I know about the spirit world is that we create it ourselves through our thoughts and perceptions. So when people say they feel an unknown presence, for example, the reason lies within them. Have you experienced something like this? An unknown presence?
Of course, Henry thought. Of course Marjorie would wangle it so that it was his problem.
Well, no. But what does it mean when things disappear that shouldn't disappear?
What things?
Henry evaded the question.
All sorts of things.
I don't know. Some would probably call it a glitch in the system. Or maybe it's just that you're getting older and your short-term memory is getting worse.
His daughter snickered again. Henry didn't bring up the topic again for the rest of the dinner, but decided to look up glitch later. At the tram stop, Henry pulled out his copy of Proust again, for comfort. In the dim light, he could barely make out the cover. Something was not right. He brought the cover closer to his eyes and suddenly felt that familiar, hollow feeling in his stomach again. Part of the title was gone. Only In Search of Lost Time was still there. Did parts of the book disappear now without the young woman reading them out? He turned the pages fast as lightning. Thank God, the rest was still there. The young woman must have read the title aloud, maybe to herself, maybe to someone else, and had thus stolen the identity of the whole first part of the Lost Time series. When Henry Googled Proust the next morning, he came across something. A tiny article published by the Sorbonne titled In Search of the Lost Name. His heart began to beat faster. The article said, for decades the first part of the Recherche had been attributed the title Swan's Way. According to the latest research, however, Proust did not actually ascribe a title to his first volume. We're only now finding out that Proust didn't have a fixed title in mind, says Claire Ferrand, professor of French literature. And we noticed a few other things too. It seems that the first pages lack a little coherence, as if he had to find his voice first. Or maybe he took out a few things afterwards, we don't know. The article went on to describe how Proust's first part had been ascribed the title Swan's Way by his first publisher, but Henry only skimmed the rest. He was sweating again. The title was gone, and he had done nothing to prevent it. What was he supposed to do? Maybe he should never meet with Natalie again, then maybe she would never read aloud again. But then again, how would he know? She could still read to someone else, but could he tell her that? She would probably just laugh at him, like everyone else would. So he would have to show her, somewhere where she could freak out undisturbed. Because she would definitely freak out. On the way to his writing group, Henry felt strangely light despite everything. He thought of the title of Proust's work, but only felt a strange taste on his tongue. The words were slowly fading from his consciousness. He only heard their soft reverberations as he walked through the corridor.
Oi, the published one.
Jeremy greeted him, grinning wryly. Sometimes Henry had the feeling that he was quite a bit off his rocker, but what writer wasn't?
So, are you going to read something to us today? Or are you just here to secretly criticise us?
Henry chose to ignore him, and instead stared at the three middle-aged women. One of them had sent around the first pages of her latest novel. Henry had only glanced over it. That was enough for him. It was like eating cotton candy for lunch. But that was what most readers probably preferred. The self-publisher pulled the printout out of her pocket and began to read. She read fluently, had only a slight Scottish accent. She didn't roll the words in her tongue the way the young woman did, and Henry didn't get woozy when he heard her read either. Whenever the young woman read, he would immediately taste the words on his tongue, and the scenes would come alive before his eyes. And afterwards, the words would be gone, read away. The realization seeped into him like poison pushing its way through the body. Could he ask Natalie to? He wouldn't even have to sue anyone. It would save him and his opponent, the publisher, a lot of money and nerves. It would be a clean solution. He spent the rest of the session thinking about it and paid little attention to the texts.